Release the Kraken! Hey boys, what are you at? My name is Troy.
I'm Mike.
Welcome back to Facility D20. In this encounter video, we're going to talk about the Kraken battle. That was a long time coming.
It was scary, but we got through it.
We did. So the first thing I'm going to do is take you in and show you the build. This was pretty simple. It was just off of Tawny Town. I'll link that video in the description if you want to check that out, which was like a lakeside, dockside town. Yeah. And there was 3 ships, all 3D printed, and the Kraken, of course. So that was the build. So I'm going to take you in and show you guys that first. So here's Tawny Town again. You can check this out in our other video. I'll link it in this one. There's some foreground buildings, some papercraft buildings, some homemade dock systems, and here's a whole lot of 3D printing. All these ships are 3D printed, and this Kraken is 3D printed, and it's on the Map by Mars. You can check out some 3D printing ship videos on my channel as well. This took up pretty much the entire table. It was a huge setup, but it was really nice to play on a battlefield this big, and it felt like this made it really epic because it was such a large scale battle. We had tons of minis, little rowboats were going around, this Kraken tentacles were all over the place. It made for a real menacing time. See some dudes up in the crow's nest here. Very fun. Okay, so let's talk about why you guys were here in the first place. So right from the very start of this campaign, I had all you guys come together because you all had these very odd birthmark tattoos of a circle on your side. And at the very first session we played almost 2 years ago now, you were brought together by a NPC named Victor Greyhawk. And that's when you guys discovered you all had these tattoos. Yeah. So through the jigs and the reels, over time, you learned a lot of stuff. You learned that there was some sort of prophecy related to these circles on your side, that you had to, you discovered a book which talked about it, but you need the codex to translate it. Yeah, and we forged a copy of it and kept it, and then gave him the original. Or no, we gave him the forge and we kept the original. You kept the original, exactly. And from that, you tore a page from it, and which was a recipe for some potions. Mm-hmm. So you went and got these potions made, and you discovered that these potions controlled, or like animal influence, animal friendship potions, but it only worked on like octopuses and squids and stuff. Yeah. So you learned that, you got a whole batch made, and through the jigs and the reels, eventually you went to Candle Keep, where you found the codex to translate the book. So there's an encounter video about Candle Keep. I'll link it as well. And from that codex, you learned that you were tied up in this prophecy where these 5 individuals with ring tattoos would come together, perform a ritual using this potion to summon a Kraken and gain complete control over this Kraken. So after that, you were hunting down this Victor Greyhawk for a while, and you found him through scrying, and you've kind of been keeping an eye on him. Yeah, we've been peering in on him from time to time to kind of keep tabs, just so he hasn't been completely in the background. Yeah, exactly. So all this took place over a year, so different points of the campaign. So eventually you tracked them down, you chased the ship down, you got up alongside of them, you guys came to what we'll call a partnership. Yeah, he kept trying to welcome us to the crew, and we kept trying to welcome him to the Armada. So we don't know whose crew is part of who, but they come to agreement, and they sailed to Tawny Town, of course, which you saw in last video. You guys had a day or so there to get ready. Yeah. At the bar, you sat down with Greyhawk, and he discussed pretty much what was happening. So Tawny Town itself was actually built under a large underwater cavern complex, which the Kraken has been resting in for centuries. And Greyhawk learned of this long ago. And the reason Greyhawk is involved is because back a century ago, he lost his lover to pirates on the open seas. And as part of that, he snatched a document from the pirates as his vessel was getting boarded. And there he discovered a nautical map and references to this prophecy. So he found this town a century ago, or found this location, and built this town on it. Mm-hmm. He then rounded up all kinds of crew over the years to sail his vessels and to inhabit the town. And he took all these ruffians in, essentially, and gave them homes. So he hasn't been an evil person. So eventually he found these guys.
That's one way to look at them.
Yeah. So eventually he found these guys and discovered they were the key to this prophecy. And he led them here, or they chased them here. Nobody can quite discover. Yeah. But either way, they sat down at this bar and came to a decision that they were going to work together. Greyhawk, of course, wanted the Kraken to patrol the seas and keep them safe from pirates. And I'm not sure why you guys want the Kraken, because you're destined to it.
We kind of want it to fight off anything we have, and we want to rule the seas. We are the good guys?
I don't know. So anyways, the plan was they were going to sail just off of the docks of Tawny Town, position the ships in a kill box, pour the potion as per the ritual.
Yeah.
And then you guys all had to get together, and as a part of this ritual, they had to drink the potion themselves. And essentially what would happen is all your guys' minds would meld into one.
Which, when that happened, was very interesting, because we've been using modify memory and things on each other, trying to hide secrets and take traumatic experiences away from each other.
And like dark stuff too, like not just little things.
Yeah, like the different things, like when I had to attune to the Sword of Kaz for the first time, in order to do it, I had to kill somebody with the same alignment as me, and I was true neutral. So in order to do that, I ended up having to kill a kid. And that was, and instead of like dealing with the repercussions of that, the bard used modify memory and took that memory away from me, so I didn't know I had even done that, and that had rush back.
Yeah.
And we had all the different like traumatic experiences that we went through. The bard had kept taking them onto himself and taking it onto himself, and then
he was starting to crack.
Yeah, he was facing repercussions of that, and then the mind meld happened, and all the dirty laundry got aired out.
Yeah, and as a DM, that was a little bit by design for a few reasons. I had planned the mind meld and the spilling of secrets from session 1 to happen, because I just from experience saw that sometimes players like to keep their backstories essentially to themselves, which is fine, but the problem is the rest of the people around as players, not so much characters, don't get to like really understand motivations or why somebody is doing something. Now our group has been pretty good, because up to this point, I would say 70% of people's motivations and deep dark secrets have been discussed.
Yeah, or come out in some light.
Exactly, but this was like the final. I literally went around the table and I pretty much spoke the player's backstory to the table. Yeah. I just one by one, and I asked if I left anything out, and the players could explain what I left out. Now that sounds a little bit like, oh, the DM just totally took control of the players, but literally that was the point. If your minds are meld and you cannot hold secrets, then everybody's stuff was going to come out. Yeah. So I wanted that to be a big moment. Now I did give people a chance with a DC to try to shield it. But they realized that if they didn't let their minds completely go, the ritual wouldn't work to raise this Kraken. So that was a really important and big moment in the campaign and at the table. I thought it was an enjoyable moment to have everybody's stuff just come out and everybody out and open. It was in the middle of like a fucking Kraken battle.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was an interesting repercussion, because after the first time, the bard had failed his, and all of the secrets spilled out, but like a lot of us had still succeeded, so it had failed the first time. And so when we came out and it didn't work, I ended up like slapping the bard across the face with my shield, and like got really angry with them, and then got really mad at myself. And and then they're like, no, we got to focus back up and we got to try this again. The only way it's going to work is if we all let it happen. And then we got the big mind rush go through there.
Yeah. And while this was happening, so after the potions was poured, the mind ritual started, the Kraken left the cave and came up by the ships. And while this was going on, which took a lot of rounds, like it took a long time, the Kraken was battling.
Oh yeah,
so the Kraken was smashing the ships, was smashing the NPCs, was smashing the players, but the players weren't really getting to go on their turns, because they're all like subdued subconsciously. Now, in order not to be completely boring for the players, there was 3 ships and a lot of cannonballs. So the guys were all rolling damage and rolling cannonball fights, so that was a lot of fun. And one of the agreements he came to with Greyhawk was to have his community members from the dock harpoon
into the to complete the kill box.
Yeah, so you were harpooning the Kraken, and I was just using like little markers when the harpoons would pretty much grab a talon, and every time we grab a tentacle, I would have like, okay, well, a little less actions for the Kraken.
Yeah.
So it was a really dynamic fight because not only were you trying to harpoon and subdue and not kill the Kraken, you were also trying to complete this ritual. And let me tell you, Kraken, I ran like dragons, I've ran a few big things on. The Kraken has definitely been like the most powerful thing that I ran.
It is a scary monster.
Yeah, especially it's got siege weapon capabilities, so anytime it hits a ship, it just doubles its damage. And when I was getting crits, and I was like...
Yeah, with the first hit that hit our vessel did 100 damage to our hull in one shot. And we were like, this has 300 hit points. We can't take any more of those.
Yeah, so that was a series of 3 tentacle hits, of which 2 were crits. Now, I did have to, of course, I had to alter it out of the monster manual again. So I gave it more hit points, and I threw in an extra dice of damage.
That's the problem with the monster manual totals.
Yeah.
I find that the hit point values are way lower than what they should be.
They're pretty much useless after level 5.
Yeah, like we've had encounters where I've ran them when I was completing one of our other characters' backstories, where I had them fight a Belrog. And when they fought a Belrog, and in the first round, I added an extra digit of health.
Yeah, that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So I had this Kraken that I 3D printed. I'll link the video in here. I rushed this build, but I got it done in time.
It is crazy how much 3D printing has affected our campaign.
Amazing.
And just our gaming in general.
All those ships were 3D printed.
Like, if you take the 3D printers out of our home game, then it looks completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
And the interaction with the sets and interaction with like the monsters all change because if you visually see it, it'll change how you roleplay it.
Yeah, and that's the big reason why we do these builds. So yeah, that's a few tips when you're running the Kraken. It's brutal against ships. If your parties are high level, it needs more hit points, a little extra damage. Besides for that, it's a beast. And the legendary actions are pretty cool. It can put lightning in the water, which made it difficult because anytime somebody fell in the water, which happened multiple times, they were getting electrocuted. It was really tough. So just as it seemed like this prophecy and this ritual is coming to an end and you guys were gaining control, essentially what happened was the Preytrons came back. And the Preytrons came down and attacked the ships and fucked up the ritual and interrupted it. Of course, the Kraken went wild again. So we had another few rounds of battling the Kraken until you guys could subdue it to finally complete the ritual.
Yeah.
So now the ritual was completed and we were right at the end of the session. And essentially, basically, when these guys all regained consciousness, they saw Greyhawk, who was in the center of you guys on your ship doing the ritual with you. You guys opened your eyes, were disoriented, and when you looked around, you saw Greyhawk, Thanos style, put the final ring on his finger, and he had 5 rings on all 5 fingers. And when you guys looked down, your tattoo birthmarks were now gone and replaced with scars.
Oh, we were so pissed when we woke up from that. We're like, we're going to kill Greyhawk now. He's dead. He is dead. He's on the ship with us. We don't care if we burn this whole town down and we die to the Kraken as long as he's dead.
And like that's literally where we ended the session.
Yeah.
I just ended it right there at that moment. And I think that was the most pissed off I've ever seen a group of players. Like, they were pissed. My text messages on my phone were just going for the rest of the night. I'm trying to go to sleep, and I was like, bing, 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 bing. It's just like a whole bunch of gifs and text messages about how much they're going to fuck this guy up.
It was good because it really captured our engagement. Like, we were super invested after that point. Like, it hooked us. Like, hook, line, and sinker. We were in.
Yeah.
But
it was fun.
It was a different experience because I've never had this point where I was this angry at an NPC before.
Yeah.
And like, I thought it was a brilliant standpoint from like a narrative point of view to have this happen. We were always suspicious of him, and we were like, okay, now we have to kill Greyhawk. He's now the next bad guy because he's been put so much into helping us for this.
Yeah.
And the betrayal was just like so, like, it caught us deep. but it was fun to experience that.
It was fun to do, yeah.
When you get caught up in the moment, all the emotions were real on that.
Yeah, it was a great time. So guys, hit subscribe and stick around. We'll let you know what happened with Greyhawk in the next session, how the next session picked up. It went pretty interestingly, I got to say.
It's not something you want to miss.
So if you guys ever ran any like really huge monsters like ancient dragons or what's the Tarquis? What's that thing?
It's Tarrasque.
Tarrasque, yeah, or something huge like that. Let me know in the comments. I'd like to know how this sort of came out. So I just wanted to let you guys know, like, sometimes it don't have to be a straight up battle. Sometimes you can have like other elements in the fight, like harpooning the Kraken and completing a ritual and getting potions in the water. It makes for a very dynamic battle that's just not see monster, kill monster.
Yeah, like it always helps adding another layer of complexity. It's not the first time it's happened in our campaign.
No.
But giving the players another objective to do simultaneously while battling makes encounters more complex and more fun and more engaging.